Hi everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi,
How are you doing?
Hey guys,
very
how
good.
are you?
Thank you.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening.
Amazing, guys. Welcome to the first coffee chat of 2026 that we are conducting, especially for June attempt. Even if there is someone from September attempt, we can take a couple of questions from there also. But yeah, I hope you all are preparing well, and technicals are mostly done, perhaps for most of you, especially who are preparing for June attempt.
Because if you look at the timelines, we're almost towards the end of Feb, and it's just a 3 months more game left for now.
Yeah.
So, at this point, the focus should be that either you're finished with your technicals once, right? And then you've started case writing side by side. If you are working full time, then this is the stage that you should be at.
Yeah, and
Um,
especially for all of you, who are already enrolled for our course and have got the study planner for the next 3 months, so you know how you need to slot. I know, sometimes things can be busy. Could be personal life, could be professional life. So just try to juggle, but stick to that schedule. You could be doing a case here or there, like the cases that you need to write on your own. A week here or there is fine, but generally try to stick to the schedule. That is an illustrative planner that we have created to guide you and like mentor you through the next 100 days.
But then another thing that I just want to mention here is that uh, if you are somebody who is working or registered with us for our course and going by the study planner, you already have started writing a couple of cases, and this week is the first case which is due for external marking with us. So during this time, and I'm sure that this is something that will give most of you comfort because a lot of students reached out to us and they've written their first couple of cases and they were all
Yeah.
over the place. They were scared. They were thinking of quitting this attempt and then taking up the next. So we've received so many messages from so many students. But all that we want to say right now is that this is a journey, it's a
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
It is not that if you know your technicals, the first time that you start writing a case, you will get it 100% right. So you need to understand that you're starting from ground zero,
Yeah.
but you have to keep building that up. That is where this consistency, discipline,
Yeah.
revising technicals again and again comes in,
And honestly,
right?
this is a very, very good place to be in. At the end of February, you are done with your let's say you are done with your technicals perhaps once, or maybe you have revised a bit as well. You have wrote a couple of cases, and now the situation is that you know where you lack or where you need improvement.
Or what are the challenge points in CFE? Because right
Yeah.
now you've all been hearing all sort of
Yeah.
stories, but this is the first time that you will start facing those issues in practicality.
Like during the strategy sessions that we conducted, at that point of time, you knew that, okay, this is the structure that you need to follow day two, day three. But now that you are writing those cases, this is when you actually, you would actually understand, okay, what they were saying during the strategy session that were conducted. This now makes sense. So as we suggested you, when you are writing cases, maybe 2 to 3 weeks from here, you can revise or revisit the strategy session again as well, just to have a better glimpse, okay, what sort of strategy you should actually be adopting.
But yeah, all in good time. So as you all know, the way the coffee chat session works is that we basically, it's not a platform where we just like speak or like share our thoughts. It's more so where the people who have joined, if you have any questions at whatever stage you're at, if you're starting technicals or if you're
Yeah.
starting case writing, any sorts of questions or issues that you have for now, like this is like a session in which we will discuss those things.
Yeah.
So we can start taking questions. So the way we'll go is that you can raise your hand and then in turns we will, have people ask their questions.
Yeah.
But because we do have a lot of people in the call, so what we're thinking is that we'll take one question per person.
Yeah.
And then, if you're still left with time, and then if you have any other questions, so then you can ask those as well. So
Yeah.
we'll just limit it to one question per person so
Yeah.
that we're able to, cover more questions
Yeah.
from different people.
Because it is very, very important to listen to other students' questions as well. Why? Because could be a student who is maybe a month ahead from your journey, or their experiences are different. So it is very important to learn from each other, and obviously get your queries addressed, because your queries can get addressed directly through one-to-one messages, or if you want to drop your audio notes like that we do usually as well. But here it is more to learn among ourselves. Okay, so we'll start off the session with first question from Ebere.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming to assist us again. I just want to ask about the study plan because I tried printing it. I couldn't print it. Is it possible for us to have a printed copy like me
Yeah,
that is
so I'll
there?
DM you Ebere on that.
Pardon?
Yeah, I will directly message you on WhatsApp on that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes, Sangeeta.
Hi, thanks so much for conducting this session, Ravneet and Guneet. My question is about writing an FR AO. I see that in the solution guide, sometimes they start off with the definition, sometimes they go directly to the relevant section. So it gets a little bit confusing. Is it a different strategy for day three and is it different for day two? For day two, you start with the definition. Can you expand on that a little bit? And sorry, a follow-up question I'm going to ask right now. Also, when it is a really tough AO, and we know that the majority of the people are not, it's really tough for the majority of the people. They talk about the curve. So can you talk about that a little bit also? I'm not sure if it's a little early in the session to start with, but.
All right. So the first question that you were saying was that sometimes it happens in the CPA issued responses that you see that their analysis would generally start with a definition. So generally it's in case of those questions which are from a standard where you have to show them how that question or that particular situation falls into that standard. For example, if you remember from our very recent, I believe, strategy session, we had a non-monetary transactions question. So in a non-monetary, this is a specific standard which only talks about non-monetary. So before you start applying the guidance of that standard to the question that's given, you first have to make it fit. You have to tell the examiner why you think that it is a non-monetary question. How does it fit the definition criteria of a non-monetary transaction? Same thing applies to, you would notice this in the PP&E and intangible asset AOs as well. Again, these are AOs which are very specific about certain assets that qualify as PP&E, right? And then some would be intangible assets, which would qualify as intangibles. In this case, for us, it's very obvious. If it's a tangible asset, it is a given that it's a fixed asset, it's going to be a PP&E. And if it's an intangible asset, it's obvious that it's going to be an intangible asset. But again, these are sections that are standards that they expect you to start with a definition from. Whereas if you talk about a revenue question, in the revenue question, you will never see a definition, of if it is in the ordinary course of business or things like that. Like you directly get into the question in itself. So this is just like a pattern. More so, you can classify it in a way that, okay, more so in day two, you can generally start with definitions, not so much in day three, but I won't clearly categorize it that way because it's also about the sections, like I said, PP&E, intangible, non-monetary.
And also, Sangeeta, while you will be, starting to write more cases, start to debrief, then you will actually learn by, automatically that, okay, for intangibles, they always use definition. For non-monetary, they always use definition. So, sometimes, obviously, there are other standards as well there where the definition is mentioned. But yes, the handbook does not, or the CPA, CPA issued study responses do not have that. So that is a pattern. But with time you will understand. But the ones Guneet mentioned, like the standards Guneet mentioned, those are the ones where it is generally mentioned.
But also like related party, investments, these sort of standards, generally these are standards which would apply in very specific situations. So in these, you generally have to explain how you are linking it to that standard, basically.
Right. Okay. Okay,
Makes
that makes
sense?
sense.
Right. Okay.
And then I think we've covered both the questions.
The second question or the follow-up question that you asked was about the curve, right? Like basically the learning curve that you're saying.
No, it's the curve. They say they'll mark it according to the curve or
Yeah, that's so see, the thing with that is that it's again, it's not something that's like proven. It's just that we assume, or it's a generic notion in the market that if a question is difficult for a few people. Obviously, it's difficult for everybody who's writing that attempt because it's possible that that question is from a standard which was not tested in the prior, say, 7 or 8 years. So, in cases like that, it is possible that you do not know. But what our recommendation and our advice in those cases is that you will always be better off if you start or write something or the other in that AO. At least if it's an FR AO, and it's not just an FR specific issue. It's possible that it could happen with you in your elective. It's possible it could happen in an MA question. For example, in a couple of years ago, in an MA question, there was a question on those sales mix variants, which is generally a very complicated topic, and generally people do not remember formulas. But in that, if you start with your response, you write something, you do some sort of calculation, are like we generally believe that it would be better as compared to people who completely skip that AO thinking that, oh, it's a difficult question for me, so it's going to be difficult for everybody, so we would be awarded marks for it anyway. The point is that you will be awarded as per the curve only if you attempt something. Right?
Right. Right. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, no worries. Yes, Akshay.
Hey guys. So my question is like by revision of technicals again, like whenever I open the book, I like when I read it, right, I know everything. But whenever I attempt, I am not able to write it like as per,
Exactly as per standard.
so shall I like try? I don't know, this is my problem or like others are also facing, but can I revise like this? Like, for example, there is one standard. I first read that standard and then try to attempt on Word document the definition, for example, from my side, and then compare with the notes.
See, honestly, even the notes that you have, that is a, guide,
Hmm.
you can paraphrase what you want. Whenever we are talking about definitions, whenever you are talking about even the recognition criteria, you are free to paraphrase.
Okay.
So, say in the case of intangible assets, where you have to mention that future economic benefits will flow to the entity. That is all you need to write in the end. So
Right.
if you are able to convey the relevant criteria from the handbook, like that is fine. You do not have to copy paste. Just reiterating our points from the previous sessions, you are not awarded to reproduce the technical material,
Hmm.
whether you are copy pasting from Nausea or you are,
Writing it yourself.
reproducing or yeah, by your own memory. You are not awarded on that. So as long as you are able to paraphrase correctly, but the main focus is again on the integration part of things. I can understand it is not very easy to like reproduce at this time. You like all of you still have, well, for those who are appearing June, you have 100 days.
Hmm.
That is a lot amount of time, to be honest. Like some of the students are still starting, and in fact, many people who are there in the big four, or like they start pretty late in time. So you
Hmm.
are already ahead of many people. You are done with your technicals. So try revising, and with time, your technical writing also will improve.
But another point to add to that, Akshay, is that it is impossible for any person to remember all the technicals.
Correct.
The way our notes are structured is that you can remember and you should remember as much as you can, but it is not a question and answer, like we used to have in school, where you have to
Hmm.
remember exactly everything, and then in the exam you have to write with your memory. You have to
Hmm.
understand that in this exam you still have nausea.
Yeah.
So again, the fact that we keep reiterating, when you are writing and debriefing your cases, continue to go to nausea and see where the CPA brought that gap from
Yeah.
in the
Hmm.
nausea, so that the next time that same question comes in front of you, you can just simply go to the nausea, copy paste, and like Ravneet said, spend time in actually doing the analysis which matters.
Yeah.
Right? So once you start getting comfort over that, and it will come,
Yeah.
but again with time. Right now you've only
Yes.
written like
Yes.
a couple of cases, so it will take time for you to like get comfortable with
Yeah.
nausea,
Yeah.
get
Correct.
comfortable with how much memory you have and you
Yeah.
can contain, also with paraphrasing. So
Correct.
it's all a process and it will happen with time.
Yeah.
But again, don't just rely on your memory. You should have nausea with you, and you should be able to use it whenever you feel like you're able to, so that you save time.
And when we talk about process, always believe, especially with, preparing with us, that the end result will be favorable.
Mm,
Like, you have to think that way. And then if you will spend the next 3 months, 100 days, then your journey will be a lot smoother. But if you will question yourself or question the process, then, it gets difficult sometimes.
correct, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And definitely at that point also was there that rather than leaving the year, attempt something in that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think, yeah, that we need to implement. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Sure. No
no
worries.
problem.
Yes, Paul.
Hey guys, sorry, some of my questions might just sound like a rant, but so I think I am looking forward to just know when we are debriefing this cases that we have done. Is there like a set strategy that we should be looking at, or set number of things that we should be looking at? And I know that as in how we kind of proceed in the other cases, we would get to know more and more, but what are those crucial things that we should look at when we are starting off right now? Yeah, I had a few other questions, but I'll just start this for
Yeah.
now.
So note down your improvement points, Paul. Whenever you are debriefing your case, whatever you have learned under strategy sessions, whatever you have learned under the technical sessions, once you're debriefing now after writing a particular case, first obviously start with the timelines, or how much time did you take for the case, which specific AO took extra bit of time, why it took extra bit of time. So you need to go into the nitty-gritties. Obviously, there is no one specific rule of thumb that these are the rules that you need to follow. But when you're debriefing, and this is one of the questions which some of you have asked separately as well. So whenever you're debriefing, first of all, obviously, for those who are enrolled, you have the strategy session. Take cues from that as to what we are, how we are debriefing. And once you are done with that, and even now that you are debriefing on your own, try to dig into each AO. Okay, where did you miss out on? Write your improvement points, whether it is technical, you know and if you would remember, especially in the Word files, we actually mentioned that when you come to know about an improvement point or a specific suggestion, just right click and comment your own remarks, like what do you think of that particular AO, or what did you learn. And the comments should be such that whenever you look back to that Word file, maybe 2 months from here, or 50 to 60 days, or maybe closer to the exam, so you are able to catch, okay, this is something I missed out on.
Yeah, I think like that's the biggest point. Like today, when you make notes, think of it in a way that when I come back to this case 3 months down the line, what is or what are the two, three key pointers or key learnings that I would
Yeah.
want to revise at that time, right? So with that, like thought process, make down your notes, and I think this is one of the most crucial things that really helped us because if you see in the study planner, there are some weeks where we just mentioned go back and revise key takeaways from the day two cases you've written. Similarly, go back and review key takeaways from day three cases that you've attempted. So, in those weeks, what we are expecting you to do is come back to these cases that you are writing today and revise your improvement points.
Yeah.
So, what happens with that is that generally what people do, they just write cases, forget it, then write the new one. After some time, you forget it.
Yeah.
Eventually, when you go towards the exam, you're writing the exam, you did write, say, 20, 25 cases in total, but then you don't remember even one bit of it because you
Correct.
never went back and revised what was the mistakes you made
Yeah.
and what was your learning from that.
Yeah.
It's very important that you revise those things. So, try to make
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
comments for yourself.
Like,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But other than that, I was just saying that there's no like specific focus point when you're debriefing. I would say just the one thing that we would reiterate is that when you are debriefing, don't think of a time in mind or don't rush it
Yeah.
because initially in the first few cases that you write, especially day two, you will take a lot of time in debriefing and it will almost start feeling like I'm doing something wrong, like why am I taking so long to just go through one question.
Like a day to debrief can go on for days. Honestly,
If you break it into
yeah,
that.
like you write a day to, obviously, say in 5 hours, say you are writing on a Sunday, and then you start debriefing on a Monday. It can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. In total, even if you are spending eight, like if a student comes back to us and says that I spent 8 hours or 9 hours on debrief, like, we would appreciate the student because he is wanting to improve on his particular case.
But then after that one or two debrief, when
Yeah.
you write your third case, that is when you will start feeling, oh,
Yes.
I've come a long way.
Yeah. But then compared to a student, again, who is writing this case, debriefing maybe say for 1.5, 2 hours tops, writing another one, and then even after 3 to 4 cases, that student is feeling, I'm not improving, or maybe I'm still lacking the same things. The thing is, again, that you're not debriefing, you're not introspecting yourself. So that is the, key pillar there.
Those points helps. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No worries. Yes, Roshan?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hi. So I just joined the program and I'm writing the CFE in September. So I just wanted to know like how do I make the most out of the technicals are being delivered and like how to make the most of where I am like right now.
Okay. So we are, roughly 6.5-ish months away from the exam. The next 2.5 months, or maybe even 3 months, right? 2.5 to 3 months should be just be focused towards doing your technicals. Do it slowly. If you have more time and you are able to cover it earlier, say out of those 2.5 months, you are able to cover the technicals in 1 month, which is, very much possible if you have time, because you know how concise or strategically we have devised those technicals. If you are able to complete those technicals say in 1 month, the balance 1.5 months still devote just to revise that, because in the end we know that we have basically devised those strategies or devised those technicals in a very short span, but the content is still the same. The content is still the same. You are absorbing a lot of information, so it is always good to have that 2.5 months picture in mind from here. After that, the next 4 months or the balance 4 months up to your September attempt, you like start writing cases little by little slowly, and then the case marking will also come. But during the entire 4 months, your focus should be to revise the entire technicals 4 or 5 times. So, which is like roughly once a month. And that is very much achievable because the technicals you are able to do in under 50 hours. So your revision, like your first revision should take 20 hours, second revision should take 16, 17 hours, third will take 14. So by the time you reach the exam, you are, like students are able to do the revision in under 8 hours, 10 hours, right? So that is your progress path from it.
Yeah, but right now you do have a lot of time. So again, it's good that you know the direction that you're headed so that you can spend some time building that discipline and that consistency, like maybe taking out, that you're taking out like 1 or 2 hours every week at a minimum, at a stretch or on, like split between some days. That's
Yeah.
up to you, but you can spend that time building that consistency and like Ramit said, focusing on the technicals initially, so that once you arrive at the stage where you start with case writing practice, then you're at least done with the technicals and you have those well in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Thank you. And just a small question about this recording. Where can we access the video?
For this today's session,
Yeah.
we will upload this and share with the group as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
No problem. Yes, Karun.
Yeah, hi Ravneet, hi Guneet.
You guys.
So the issue I'm facing is I briefly mentioned that to Ravneet as well during the chat. Like I'll be very specific. Like the Roxane case I attempted, and it asked for a comparison between ebooks and the printed books. So I could understand that I could write down the main points. What are the advantages of ebook or what is the advantage of printed book? But in the debrief, I saw it. They had written pages on it, right? So that's where I got a bit scared. Like even if I'm writing the right stuff, but it's very brief, then would that be like fine or like what? Because I can understand like when the FR is concerned, I need to be a bit more detailed. And in day
Yeah.
two, I think I'll try and be a bit more detailed. But specifically in day three, do my answers need to be as detailed as they are in the debriefs or like what?
Maybe I can touch upon one point and then Guneet can take over from there. So, see, there is a difference between perfect response and what is a practical response, or or a strong response, or a response which will actually give you marks practically. So the responses that you're comparing to, or which is given by the CPA Institute as well, those are the responses we call as perfect response. That is an ideal solution which will cover the responses of maybe different students, right? So they want to give five different angles to the same story so that you can feel the direction. So all you need to, when you're reviewing, especially the qualitative aspects, because qualitative is subjective. Quants, you can, say you're calculating cost per unit, that you may be able to match up surely, right? But when we go to qualitative aspect of things, then the CPA study solution or the perfect response has 5 to 6 different angles, and you just need to see whether you're going in the right direction or not. That is one. And second, during your debrief, what can you learn from what CPA study, or the CPA board has written? Like, what was their mindset, so that in your future cases, maybe you can also think on similar lines. But that does not devoid you of any marks, right? So you are still on the right path. It is just that you are not directly tying up because it is subjective.
But then again, another thing with the board issued responses is that I always say this in, when we talk to students, that you have to consider those board issued responses as an answer key. So if you understand what I mean by an answer key is that they have to include all the possible responses to that question, because it is possible that two of the students could have picked out, say, a separate kind of a weakness in a control, but then maybe two students picked out something else from the facts given. So in that case, as the CPA body who is issuing the key to that, or the response to that case, they have to include everything. But that being said, that does not mean that you have to write as much.
Yeah.
It's just that the main thing I would keep in mind when I'm debriefing and trying to assess if I'm what I wrote was enough or not is if I answered the why of it.
Yeah.
Right? In almost, and this applies in almost every situation. If you are writing an audit procedure, if you are maybe in
Risk.
doing a risk, if you are whatever, right? And this, you will start to understand
Yeah.
this with time. But then you should always answer the why. Like, if you are suggesting a procedure, why or what for? What will that procedure do? You have to answer the why.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they said that maybe uh,
Like,
let's
See
say,
take
that
an example
ebooks,
that
the ebooks one. So what you're effectively saying is, if I mention that why ebook is preferred over a printed book, even if that's brief, then I think I should be good, if I'm understanding you
yeah,
correctly.
but like one thing that you can adapt is that when we used to debrief at our times, and even with the students that we've mentored, what we used to tell them is that if you find a point that you also talked about or mentioned in your case in your exam, I agree that you mentioned it, but then you have to see the way that the CPA structured, the CPA body structured it. If you
Yeah.
were able to find that same
Yeah.
pointer, for example, you're saying that the ebooks thing, they would have touched upon the same point, but just try to look at the way that they structured it.
Yeah.
You would see that in each point, they included case facts,
Yeah.
they answered the why, or they would also have had added some more aspects to it.
Yeah.
So, that is the learning point. And one of the things that we really feel what happens with students is that once you write a case and then if you go to the board issued response,
Yeah.
students generally look at it from a marking perspective, that how
Yeah.
did I do? Did I cover this? Okay, tick. Did I not cover this? Okay, maybe I'll do it next time. But that is not the approach that you should be following. You're
Yeah.
not giving yourself marks initially, at least initially.
Yeah.
Initially, what your focus is, what did you miss? Or even if something that you attempted, how could you have done it better?
So you should be focusing on learning basically, right? So
Like,
that is the
yeah.
nutshell of it. Like, just focus on learning. That process is not over yet. We are done with technicals. Now we have jumped to case writing. Obviously, we did strategy session, but we have jumped to case writing. This is also a learning phase. The starting part or starting phase, at least the next couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks, will be the learning phase. That is when, after which you actually evaluate yourself. So maybe, we are still at end of Feb. Maybe by the end of March, that is a good time to evaluate yourself a bit. That also a bit, because still you will be, you will have April and May with you.
And the
That's a lot
case
of time.
markings, the external ones will help too. Like
Yeah,
they will, highlight what is it or how is it that you're missing something if
because
you want.
sometimes when you are introspecting your own case or self-reviewing, obviously you won't be able to find faults or basically find improvement points, because
Like,
the why
yeah.
like as Vineet was mentioning on the procedures, the why is missing in a lot of cases, and that could be because of time, that could be because you did not focus enough, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think the most demoralizing aspect for me was that that case was for 80 minutes, and even my brief responses took about 80 minutes. And when I saw those detailed responses, and I was like, how could I even write those kind of responses in the
Yeah.
allotted time? So that's why I was a bit worried on this one.
Yeah.
That's
But I
right.
think I get what you're saying. It's the why. I mean, the reasoning, the main
Yeah.
reasoning, and
Yeah.
as you say, with the journey, I might improve maybe 1 or 2 months down the
You
line.
will for
Yeah,
sure.
you will. And
Okay.
this is one way of looking at it, that you are able to complete a brief response in 80. There are some students, even in today's session, who were able to complete the same case, but they missed on a couple of AOs. So,
Yeah.
in the end, this time management or time crunch is one of the major issues in CFE. That was a given right from the very, beginning or ball one. So this
Yeah.
is what you are facing now, or, or basically trying to improve. So, you would be able to do that. And even on the exam day, this is not a certain that, you would be able to attempt all the AOs. We are striving for it. We are trying for it, right? But how things pan up, that is only
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. No, that helps. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes, Surbhi.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for first taking out time for this session. Really waiting for it. So since I attempted the cases as suggested by the study planner, what I figured out is that I'm able to identify the AOs because they're usually direct. However, I struggle with the strategy questions. So I often miss like important points mentioned in the case study and then fail to incorporate them into my answer. Like earlier, what I felt is that I was over highlighting everything in the case, but now I feel like I might be missing key details, altogether. So I just wanted to know that how can I improve my approach to identify, relevant strategic issues and then incorporate them into my answers as well.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, because
But it's
yeah,
subjective as
yeah,
well.
very subjective, because you actually start off with that approach that you highlight everything, but
Right.
then when you realize time is short, then you skip everything, and then you need to find a balance, right?
But the point
Yeah.
is that when you are reading the case, especially if
Mhm.
it's a day three case, it's a very short one. It's only like 15 minutes. I know that there is a time pressure that you have to finish reading, within 25% of the time, or say 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But what happens with that pressure is that sometimes you're not able to read with as much attention. It is possible that you forget to highlight a point that you read. But the thing is that when you are actually writing a response, and your mind should remember that, oh, I read this little fact in the case, and your mind, you should be able to go back to the question paper and look for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is what I'm coming at. That, see, I wouldn't rely too much on highlighted or not highlighted. The thing
Yeah.
is, your mind should have registered that case fact.
Yeah.
But for that, you need to be careful and focused when you are reading it.
Yeah.
Another thing that we suggested during the strategy sessions was that whenever you see a case in front of you and you start reading it, obviously the first two, three lines or the first paragraph would generally give you a background of the company, what operations they are in. In that case, it always helps that you have an actual picture in your head. For example, if you remember in the day three strategy session, or I guess day two,
Day two.
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was, I
Farm
think,
fresh.
yeah, it was
If you would
yeah.
remember, like we discussed farm fresh, right? So what like Guneet is sort of coming to is, when you are actually learning, or sorry, when you are actually reading a case, try to put yourself into that particular case situation so you can understand better. So if you will be reading the case just for the sake of numbers, just for the sake of facts, and never assume that the, some information is irrelevant also.
Yeah.
Right.
Most of the information is actually relevant, but sometimes you are missing something, or you are missing out on a case fact, but that can help you integrate.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, the thing is that Akshay mentioned that it was farm fresh to you. That was a grocery chain question, right? Like the
Mhm.
case. Now, when you take your mind to Walmart, right? And then when you are answering those questions, obviously you understand the case facts, they start making a lot of sense to you, right? And then when you start writing your responses in questions where your mind needs to, think practically about probably, in terms of audit or in terms of even financial reporting, if you're doing some pros and cons, when you have an actual picture in your mind, it's way easier to think about it. Like, if I'm being honest, like we had a lot of problem because like in our attempt we had a case which was about pets. For the longest time I could not relate to it. Because I could not relate to it, I did not have a picture in mind. I was not able to understand so many case facts that they would give out on the case, right? But then when I actually thought of a shop in my mind, now
Right.
I went into that situation, and then slowly I was able to grasp all the case facts that they were doing, giving, that this is their industry, this is where they want to expand, things like that. So it all starts making sense when you not don't treat it as a case, a written case, but then think of it in a practical world, that you are a CPA and this is the situation you're facing, so what would you do? I think it will help you retain the case facts more, even if you skip highlighting some of it.
And also a couple of more points here to add to what Guneet mentioned would be, one is, once you start reading 3, 4, 5 day 3 cases, or, day 2 cases as well, you will notice a pattern, like very similar to what we discussed under the strategy session as well. You will notice a pattern. Okay, on day 2, the first page is this, the second page is this. Obviously, do not treat that as a given. Do not treat that, this will be the pattern, but this would be the pattern mostly. Like similar to what we always mention, that on day 2, there are 13 AOs, 6 AOs on FR, MA, 7 on assurance. Even under that assurance, one could be risk, one, 2, 3, 4 could be procedures. So just try to recognize that pattern on a day 3. Okay, let's consider day 3. Okay, first page is this. Then the second page also comes, or not comes, we are not sure. But then appendix 1, appendix 2, appendix 3. Under the appendices, sometimes when a question is given, say on management accounting, you can just briefly glimpse it through, because those are the numbers you will have to come back to again. So rather than basically investing more time at that stage, you will have to eventually come to that. Obviously, have a glimpse, know what the appendix is about, but then come back to it later. So that will help save time, and also more focus when you are actually writing that particular response.
Yeah, yeah, I think I need to actually put myself into the case, because there was this one case I was attempting still goods, and I just figured that the discussion points that they mentioned while I was debriefing the case, there were so many discussion points. And I was like, I just mentioned just two, because already I was short of time. So I was like, I couldn't even think of those points which were mentioned in debriefing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I will incorporate this strategy in my next case. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes, Patrick.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Two questions. First is, Ravnish, you mentioned you're going to share a link where we could access strong responses.
Sorry, come again on that one, please.
Strong responses, like where to get the strong responses aside the board response. Yeah, because when I was trying to debrief the ebook case, I was shocked when I saw the board response. It was so elaborate. So I needed to see what a strong response looks like on that case.
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
most
we can
likely,
share a couple of them with you.
Yeah.
okay,
Because,
cool.
because like generally those are not available. That is something we will just share out of our own repository.
Yeah, we
And
said
then
so.
so that you have so that you have an idea, okay, how things are going. Right. But I'll share that.
Yes.
But that will give you like a good, like insight into the amount or the quantity of response that you are expected to write.
Exactly.
Yeah, never take that as a basis, though. When you are debriefing, never take that as a basis. Okay, this guy has a strong response, so I can review with this guy, and I can also frame my response like this. So never take that response as a basis, especially from correctness standpoint. But just say that, okay, even if you write like this, like, people are getting fair responses because it actually gives you more practical insight sometimes that, okay, this is more of a practical response. And, as like Karun was mentioning,
Motivated also that, okay, this much I will also be able to write in this much
like
time.
similarly, Karun was also mentioning earlier today, right? That it is very difficult to, basically repeat what the CPS board responses actually like looks like. So just try to take, as Guneet mentioned, like take motivation from there, but do not try to compare your response from correctness standpoint.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then the second one is for appendixes that I use Excel. Do I need to copy and paste that in Word, or once we have done that in Word, we don't need to go back to copy and paste the responses in Excel and then Word?
So whenever you do a calculation in Excel, the first step is that obviously you give the heading in the Word file, right? Whatever, say question number 2 or AO number 2, and you give a heading. If it's an MA question, or even if it's not an MA question, it's an FR question and you're going to the Excel, whenever you're going to the Excel, you have to mention it on your Word file in one liner. Please refer to Exhibit 4, Exhibit 5, for the
Yeah.
calculation. So you give that heading so that when the marker is marking, they know that now they have to look at exhibit number 5 in your Excel file.
Yeah.
Once you've done your calculation in Excel, you don't have to bring it over in the Word file. It will stay there.
Yeah.
But you have to conclude in the Excel file at the end, right? When you did your calculation, you put a conclusion and you say whatever the question is. For example, you were calculating materiality.
Yeah.
So you will say that as per the above calculation, the materiality is this much. Now, that conclusion you can bring over to the Word file. Only the conclusion. And the reason you can do that is because sometimes it's possible that you're mentioning some more points below it that relate to that conclusion. So then it's easier to link
Yeah.
up both the things.
And that is also, a very quick job to do. Some students do, some don't do. But because you have given a reference to the exhibit, so that is still okay, even if you don't. But it is always good, as Vineet is mentioning, like, it is easier to integrate the quantitative and qualitative and then conclude again.
Okay, so even if I forget to do that, I won't be penalized. Like even if I forget to reference from the Word that I have done.
Should be okay. Like, during your case writing, when you are like this case writing process, try seeing what is working for you.
But it's just like copy pasting one line, so it shouldn't be much. Try to make that habit. You still have time, so it won't take long when you actually think of it that you have to do it.
Okay, great. Right. Thank you.
Yes, Tushar, the question that you were asking. So yes, all the exhibits will be on one sheet only. It has to be exhibit 1, exhibit 2, and then carrying on. So even if the case is changing, your exhibit is still continuing. So say you use 3 exhibits for case number 1, after that you will use exhibit number 4, right? Yes, Akshay?
Sorry, I'm asking another question which I forgot.
No
Uh,
problem.
so just to clarify regarding this Excel word, what I'm doing is like any quantitative question like finance or MA, I'm doing only calculation in Excel with marking as like annexure A, and in Word I'm writing please refer annexure A for calculation, and conclusion I'm putting in Word. Is that okay?
Try doing that in Excel, surely. That is the first
Okay,
preference.
okay.
But as Vineet, mentioned, try bringing that to the Word as well if you can.
See, it's,
Conclusion.
nobody makes these rules.
Yeah.
The way you have to think is if it is convenient for the person marking your case,
Yeah.
if he's checking or marking your Excel calculation in the Excel, but if he sees that there is no conclusion, it is possible that he made an impression there that you didn't conclude. And then he went to the Word, he sees your conclusion. Either he does, sometimes he might miss
Got it,
it.
got
So,
it.
just from that perspective.
Just
So
copy
what is
paste, that's
most
all.
convenient to him? Like, see his convenience.
Got it, got it. And the other question is in one day three case which I wrote, the AO was saying that it is a first year end audit, right? And a board has asked for discussion on materiality, including performance materiality and audit approach. So we need not write about risk in this case.
Correct. That's correct.
Oh,
So
okay.
there would be some cases. So always it is not the entire RAM, right? So
Hmm.
mostly it is, I would say 60-70% of the times, but then there are certain cases that you are focusing directly on materiality and not the entire audit plan.
But in this case, I'm thinking that if it is a first year audit, it is possible that in the response they would have started with, the assessment of risk. Because if it
Yeah,
is a first year
yeah.
audit, they won't directly go to materiality and the approach, because you do need the risk also to calculate materiality, right?
You can
What I
maybe
was
mention the
thinking, yeah,
case name, Akshay, so that we can
it is it
comment
is
upon.
agro share.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can comment on that separately, perhaps,
Sure,
Akshay.
sure. Thank you.
Yes, Paul.
Guys, sorry. So my question is, when we have these questions about, say, evaluating business options or anything that's, say, more than a year, I think it's kind of a default we think about net present value. But I think in one of the cases, the very first question, I think it's the AgroShare case, they didn't really do a net present value calculation. And I didn't really get why was that the case in the specific question, like because the business decision was between like two business options and it was spread across 2 years, but they just did it in a way that okay, first year it's like the profitability is less, but second year the profitability is bumping in one of the businesses. So that's how they kind of looked at it, and they didn't really look at the time value of money. So I'm not sure why was that the approach of that case versus
But
um
it is possible because it was only, as you're saying, it was only the first 2 years. So it's possible that for 1 year they didn't do it. But in cases like these, if you are making an assumption and you're doing it, you will not be, if you discount it to just bring it to today's present value, you will not be,
Penalized.
yeah, it will not be wrong. So if you believe that, they should have done it,
got
you can do it.
Yeah. So any reasonable calculation, Paul, and for everyone. So, any reasonable calculation that you are doing, that is awarded. So you, in the end, consider yourself as a CPA working in an industry or a firm, and you are given that situation, and you are, basically making the calculation as per your own understanding. So there is nothing wrong or right, right? Because that is your own judgment. So what decision you eventually make, that is the thing. But it is your own call.
But generally, if it's just the next year, I would also not get into a PV, because that is something that I would do if it were like 3 years or more than 5 years. And then if the numbers were also changing or they were giving some information about the future years.
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
No problem.
Right.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, yes.
Yes, Shashi.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Thank you very much for this coffee session.
Yeah.
On eBay, I have one question.
Sure.
That in the problem, it is given that the cost is $12 and markup is 33%.
Okay.
So if I do logical calculation, I'll do it as 12 plus 33 of it is 4 and it comes to
Correct.
16.
Correct.
But if I do it technically on calculator, it comes to 15.96. So if I make calculation with 16 and if the board is considering 15.96, will it
Yeah.
have impact on my...
No, no. So again, you won't be penalized for any those like these sort of things. As we said, like perhaps just reiterating it for you. So any reasonable calculation that you're doing is fine. Even if, say, in this case, Guneet would have calculated, say, 15.9 and I would have calculated 16, which is like, reasonably okay. Because in the end, the decisions that you are making as a CPA are very, huge or big in nature. It is like you do not have to go to the point actually. So even if you're doing 15.9 or 16, both are good. Yeah.
Okay. My second question is about rental properties.
Okay.
As more than 50K, we have a separate class for it.
Yeah.
But then it is also said that the amortization should not exceed the
Yeah.
total rental income amount. So if
Yeah,
I have 2 or 3 properties,
correct.
so it is individually calculated or cumulative?
Cumulative.
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 Okay. And
The point is just that it
third,
doesn't get to negative,
Yeah, it
basically.
does not
yeah,
result in a loss. Yeah,
loss cumulatively.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. And in case of like EOM, we have some examples like uncertainty or early application of standard or some disaster happened in
yeah,
this, or like in KM, we have some uh, areas of risk or auditor judgment.
yeah,
These are there. So for
yeah.
other matters, can you give me 1 or 2 examples if I compare these 3 together?
I believe
What?
that we should have given that in the notes because I clearly remember that we talked about this in the Ravgun Insider Edge.
Yeah, it is
But
there in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah. I will share that,
yeah,
Shashi, with you separately.
yeah,
we yeah.
please.
Yeah,
So if I compare 3 together, so I can see how to
sure,
differentiate other
sure.
matter. Yeah,
I
that's
will,
all.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you
sure.
very much.
I'll share
Thank
that. And really
you.
appreciate, Shashi, that your mind was able to think between assurance, financial reporting, tax at the same time. Because
Yeah.
like hearing your question, I had to take my mind into tax and then into financial reporting. So it is good that you have your mind across all the 6 competencies at this time.
No, actually, I was jumping while doing the
Yeah.
technicals, from
Yeah. No, that's nice.
audit to taxation to finance
Yeah.
to FA, so
No, that's
that
really nice.
in exam I will not get in a serial way.
100%. Yeah.
Questions
No,
may
that's
be haphazard. Yeah.
yeah, that's the
Thank
point.
you.
Yeah. But that's really, appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Right.
Karan.
Yes, Karan.
Just a quick one, guys. So like I when I attempted a question and I wrote down all the steps in the Excel. Like it was a quite a long table in the sense the revenue, the cost, etc., etc. But I made a silly mistake in the formula. So my numerical value was incorrect. So does that goes entirely for a toss, or like they do look into the steps as well?
Yeah, so the point here is, and this is for everyone on the call, this is not an exam like we used to have maybe back in at our home countries, where if the end result is not 100% match, then you will, not be awarded and it will all be like a cancel. That's not how it works. It's basically stepwise,
Yeah.
right? Even if your end result is not correct, you did 2 3 parts of that calculation or elements of that calculation well, you will still be awarded if you followed, even if you didn't do anything correct but you still followed the structure, probably if you still did the pros and cons, if there were some case facts given, you will still be awarded. If you concluded well, you would still be awarded.
Yeah.
So these minor things, like even like in Shashiji's example, and then even with you, Karan, if you make little mistakes here and there, these are all fine.
Yeah.
Right, all fine. Like if in the strong responses, a couple of them that we share with you, you will actually see that the person whose strong response that would have been, they would have done a complete analysis wrong. Their conclusion would be completely opposite to what you will see in the board response, but that guy would still have gotten a C just because his conclusion was in line with what his analysis was.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how this exam works, and that is why this should give you a lot of confidence and peace that you do not have to be 100% correct.
Yeah.
Anywhere. You just need to follow the structure. You just need to know, what standard we're talking about so that you can bring in the correct gap. You can do the analysis well. You integrate it well, and then you conclude it, well. Even if you miss out on a couple of case facts, couple of pointers, as long as you're doing it the right way, you will be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, that helps. Actually, that's some light at the end of this endless tunnel, maybe. Okay. Thanks, Guneet. Thanks, Guneet.
No. Yes, Sangeeta.
Sorry, guys, as I'm listening to all these conversations, more questions are forming in my head.
Yeah.
So, my question is about materiality. I know we discussed this in our strategy sessions. And I remember you said that you have to do at least one calculation, to normalize the net profit while calculating the materiality. Since we'll be doing the audit AOs first, and then we go and do the adjustments with FR and everything. What if is it enough to say that the materiality will be adjusted for the accounting adjustments that will happen and not give the number? Because sometimes it might not be possible to come back and calculate the materiality, even the one or two adjustments. So
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about that part.
So on that, Sangeeta, we actually did mention even in the assurance sessions that you should be leaving some space for calculating the materiality. Just start off with the question, do everything because you need to do the calculation only in the end. And it is just about, let's say you started net profit $1 million, leave a couple of spaces. And then you also go to PM because PM is basically 50 to 60 or 65%, whatever your analysis was. You just write it there. You have to keep it in mind that once you're done with FR, then you have to come to the specific part, because if you are able to actually know the impact, consider it was intangible assets, something was capitalized, but now you are suggesting to expense it off, the PNL will drop down by say 100K. So don't do it AO by AO, like FRAO1, FRAO2. Don't do it like that. Once you're done with the three FRAOs, quickly jump to your materiality AO that you have already attempted. Do those adjustments and you should be okay.
And those adjustments should generally not take long. The reason is materiality should always be in your Excel. So when it is in Excel, you already have the net income written down.
Yeah.
You left 2-3 cells, but then you applied the formula, you multiplied with the benchmark percentage, and you calculated PM, which was based on that Excel cell, right? So all you have to do is just come back and add, subtract the accounting adjustments that you arrived at. And
Right.
again, like I said, even if your materiality is incorrect, it does not match what the CPA Institute had in their solution, you will still be awarded for that calculation, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is a great tip. Come after 2 or 3 years and then
Yeah.
finish that. Okay. And I just wanted to share one observation which might be useful for the group is when I was doing the board responses, when you go back on the board responses at the end of the solution guide, you see the comments of the board, and in the first paragraph, they actually tell you to be competent what you need to do. So, because I didn't have the feedback guide, this was actually really useful for me because it says to be competent, these are the 3-4 things that they were looking for. So this might be of benefit for the group.
No,
No,
for
that's
sure.
fair advice.
If that's something that they've mentioned, then that is definitely something that you will learn to incorporate going forward as well. So that's a great point.
Yeah, it's right in the first paragraph of each AO.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Any more questions, anyone? Any follow-up questions or any questions which you still have in your mind? All right. I believe, because we have started doing these strategy sessions from 2026, which is why I feel, the kind of questions that are coming are more refined and are more,
Practically
oriented.
case writing based.
Yeah, because earlier we were like receiving questions from all over the place, right from the admin part of things to the technical part of things. So it is good to see most of you, because I see many of you who are there in today's session have already, enrolled for our course. So it is good to see that your mind is in a very structured fashion, because earlier the kind of question we used to get were like, through like, like all across different competencies and across the exam. So amazing session, guys. Thank you very much for your participation and you showing a good enthusiasm in the class.
Yeah, it was good to see all of you here, and hopefully we will keep conducting these sessions, like maybe after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then another thing is that generally we keep these sessions as focused on case writing and any struggles or issues you're facing with the case writing, not with the technicals. So like just one suggestion would be that if you're facing any issues if you have any doubts in your technicals or things like that, for those it would be better if you can directly reach out to us and then get those discussed, because the reason is that sometimes it's possible that that was a doubt that you had, but then somebody could be on a different page, and that's generally not something which is beneficial for everybody. So we can maybe have those doubts cleared over DMs, and then this platform we can still continue to keep for
more
holistic,
like more generic advice.
more generic kind
Yeah.
of questions that help others as well.
And today's Feb 26th, so your first case, who like all of you, whosoever has enrolled for the case marking, your first case is due Feb 28th. And if you are like getting done with your cases, say today, tomorrow, whenever, so you can start uploading that whenever you have time. So you don't have to wait until the very end, right? So just a call out there. And yes, have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ravneet. Thank you, Guneet.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Thank
guys.
everyone.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
Have a
you.
good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.